So today we're going to talk about conversions, and we're going to go deeper from what we talked about before. First I'm going to review it so that we're all on the same page, and then we're going to go deeper. Make sure you put today's date, which I have not.
24th. It's 24th.
September 24th. And then you put that off in the left margin, and then you put your title for the lecture. Okay, if you recall, conversions, let's say I said, this is just a review. This is what we already know.
So should we still
Okay.
write it down?
And yeah, still write it down. Everything I write on the board during a lecture, you write on your notes, okay? So, convert 35 centimeters to inches. Okay? Convert 35 centimeters to inches. Okay, so let's remember what our first step is to rewrite this down here with as a fraction. And the way I do that is I just put 35.
Over 1.
35 what?
Centimeters.
Centimeters. You've got to have the cm over 1. If you don't have the cm, it means you're completely lost. It means you don't understand conversions at all. You've got to have the unit as well as the number. Really important. Over 1. It's not over 1 centimeter, not 1 foot, not 1 meter. It's just 1. All right. And then what is my conversion factor? Conversion, factor.
2.54.
Okay, so 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. All right, so that's my conversion factor. That means my unit multipliers, I'm just writing these so you are getting familiar with this terminology. My unit, this is called my conversion factor. That tells me what one unit, one type of a unit is equal to in terms of another unit. These are identical in size. 1 inch is exactly the same as 2.54 centimeters. Therefore, what are my two unit multipliers that I could use?
1 over 2.54 or 2.54 over.
Right, but don't forget this.
The inches and centimeters.
1 inch over 2.54 centimeters, or 2.54 centimeters over 1 inch, right? Those units have to be written in there. You all get that, right? I'm drilling that into you because you have to remember that. Okay, you writing all this down for sure? Okay, I'm going to now put a times. And I'm going to do a fraction line. And I'm going to use one of my unit multipliers. Which one am I going to use?
2.54
over 1
2.54 centimeters in the bottom.
I have centimeters upstairs here. Where does it have to be for it to cross out? Downstairs. So I have to use the one that has centimeters downstairs.
Yes.
So it's going to be 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters, right? Okay, now the fun part. What do I get to do?
Cross out.
The centimeters, right? I get to cross out centimeters, centimeters. They crossed out. Now what do I have left in terms of units? Inches. That's the only thing I've left. That's awesome. That means I can 35 times 1 is 35 inches over 1 times 2.54. It's not 2.454 centimeters anymore. It's just 2.54. Right? There's no units on the bottom. That's great because that means that it's just 35 divided by 2.54, and then I write inches after it. So my final answer, if I get my calculator out, I do 35 divided by 2.54 equals, anybody have a calculator?
There's some in the red box. In the red box.
The red
on top
box.
of that.
Oh yes, this is awesome. Okay, well this is already on. So we'll just do it. 35 divided by 2.54 equals 13.78. 13.78 inches. So that was my answer. Okay? Fist to 5. You guys should know this fairly well now. Fairly well. Okay. And Yana, you missed my lecture, but you watched it, right? On the video? Awesome. Does it make sense to you? Okay. Now, obviously, I'm doing simple ones right now. And we're trying to create a pattern or a process, right? That will be useful when they get complicated. Well, now we're moving into complicated, okay? And you're going to find that if you know this, complicated is a piece of cake. Complicated is not complicated anymore. It's like awesome. It's like it doesn't matter how hard they get because you know what to do. You use the same process on a complicated one as you do on a simple one. Okay, I'm going to erase all this. All right, I'm going to use, I'll use a different number. All right, we'll say 40 centimeters. Okay, now we got a new problem. Convert 40 centimeters squared to inches squared. Okay, so that's squared, inches squared. Centimeters squared, inches squared. Okay, that squared is important to write in there. How do you get a squared unit? Yes, Victoria.
Can you multiply a number by itself?
Yes. So when you square something like 5 squared is equal to 5 times 5, right?
It kind of is confusing because it kind of makes you think that it's 5 times 2, which would be 10. But that's how I understand
Yes. Yes. But you never, ever, 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 ever multiply the base times the exponent. Never, ever, 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 ever. I'm sure you'll see that in all the books. Never, ever, 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 ever multiply the base times the exponent. Never. That just tells you how many times to multiply the base times itself.
Yeah.
5 times 5. I'm doing it twice, right? And that gives me 25, right? But with conversions, we're not just talking about numbers. We're also talking about units. Because we're talking about real things. We're talking about real lengths. The length of a shoebox, right? You know, I'm trying to find the area of one edge of a shoebox or something, right? Or a rectangle or something. So watch, if I had this was 2 inches and this was 6 inches, how would I find, what's the formula for the area of a rectangle?
You just square each number.
Well, what's the formula for the area of a rectangle first? Area of a rectangle. That means I want to know what's the area of this entire inside rectangle,
Width
right?
times length.
No, like base times
Yeah,
height.
so base times height, or you could say width times length, right? Or width times length, however you think about it. So yes, so the area would be 2 inches, would you agree with me? Times 6 inches,
Squared.
right?
Squared.
All right.
Squared.
Well, wait. It's just 2 inches times 6 inches. You're right, but I'm not there yet. You're jumping. You're jumping. So now let's think about this. If I move this around, there's a property called the commutative property, which means I can move things around. I could say, well, I've got to multiply the numbers, but I also have to multiply the units, right? So think about it. I could say this. It's 2 times 6 times inch times inch. Do you see what I did there? Does that make sense for a second?
Yes.
All right, so what is 2 times 6? 12. So that equals 12.
Squared.
And what is inch times inch?
Inches.
Inches squared. So when you have the area of a rectangle, it will always be in the units, whatever it is, squared. So it'll be inches squared, or meters squared, or kilometers squared, or miles squared, or feet squared, or yards squared. Every area will always be a squared, right? The area of a circle. What's the formula for the area of a circle? Pi r
Squared.
squared. So whenever you say area, you know it's going to be a squared. So that's one way to remember the area of a circle. It's pi r squared, right? So we have to square those units. So when I say convert 40 centimeters squared to inches squared, I'm talking about an area of a box. You see what I'm saying? Or of a rectangle. Not a box would be like volume, in a box, but the area of a rectangle, like a two-dimensional plane, like a soccer field, right? I'm talking squared. I'm talking about the area of 2. Right, so so now we're going to start this the same way we started the other one, okay? We're going to take this number and we're going to turn it into a fraction. So you go 40 centimeters, but I'm not going to write centimeters squared, okay? I'm going to do this. This is really important. Centimeters squared is the same as centimeters times what? Centimeters. I'm going to write them out separately. You clear with me? You get that?
Yes.
Really important. Over 1 times. Now, what's my conversion factor? I'm going from centimeters squared to inches squared. How do I go from centimeters to inches? What's my conversion factor? 1 inch is equal to?
2.5.
Yes. 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So my unit multipliers, it's just like the last problem. Either 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters or 2.54 centimeters over 1 inch. Right? So right now it's just like the other one. It's the same problem. The only thing is my conversion factor is not talking about inches squared or centimeters squared. It's talking about just inches and centimeters. So, get ready. Here's my fraction line. Which one of those multipliers would I use to get rid of one of these centimeters?
The first one.
Yes, I got to have centimeters are upstairs. I have to have centimeters downstairs. So I'm going to have 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters. Okay, now the fun part. What do I get to do?
Cross out 1 centimeter with 1.
I can cross out this centimeter and I can cross out this centimeter. What are my units? Oh, I still have centimeters, inches. Uh-oh. I don't want centimeters, inches. I just want centimeters. I just want inches squared. Right now I have a centimeter and I have inches. I want to get rid of this other centimeter. How could I get rid of another centimeter?
The what?
Squared.
How could I get rid of another centimeter? I just got rid of, by multiplying this times this, I got rid of one of the centimeters. How could I get rid of the other centimeter?
You have to do it again and times another 1 inch over 2.54.
Do you agree with her?
I say you have to square your unit multiplier.
So that you can cross out both of them and then you can multiply 40 times 2.54 times 2.54.
Yes.
Like you would multiply it twice.
Yes.
Yeah, so after you get it.
You could do that. Both of you are right. You could do both ways. I would suggest you use your unit multiplier twice.
Yeah.
Okay? So watch this, because I think you're less likely to screw up. So we're just going to do it again. And so I'm going to cross out centimeters, cross out centimeters. Now have I gotten rid of all the centimeters?
Yeah.
Yes. So look. So my final answer, I guess I can erase all this gobbledygook, right? Where are we? Oh, we're doing fine. Okay. So my final answer is going to be 40 over, let's see, 2.54 times 2.54, and my units are going to be inches times inches, which is inches squared. Right? So I could get out my calculator. This is how I do this in my calculator. I do every fraction is a
Division problem.
division problem. Right. You guys all know that for sure?
Yes.
Yeah.
That means 40 divided by 2.54 times 2.54. So one way I could do that on my calculator is I could say 40 divided by 2.54
Times
2.54 divided by, again, right? Divided by 2.54. I'm dividing it twice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I could either multiply this out first and then write down the number and then do 40 divided by that. Or with a calculator in one kind of quick move, I could do 40 divided by this divided by this. Because I'm dividing 40 by both of these, right? Do you see what I'm saying? So 40 divided by 2.44 divided by 2.54. And that gives me 6.43 inches squared. Is that clear? So now let's review this because this is really important. When it says centimeters squared to inches squared or anything, any unit squared, it immediately tells you, what happened to my little red top? Hello, there you are. Okay, it immediately tells you, what color am I using? Okay, it immediately tells you, this tells you how many times you have to use the unit multiplier. Does that make sense? This tells you, this exponent tells me I'm going to have to use one of these twice. And in this case I did this, so I'm going to do that one twice. Does that make sense? All right, so let's try another one. Can I erase?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so instead of writing out the unit multiplier possibilities this time, we're just going to use our logic, okay? So let's move to a different thing. Let's say convert, convert 12 yards squared to feet squared. Convert 12 yards squared to feet squared. So write that down. Convert 12 yards squared to feet squared. So immediately, and my conversion factor. What's my conversion factor? 1 yard is
3
equal
feet.
to how many feet?
3 feet.
3 feet. That's all I need to go from yards to feet, or yards squared to feet squared. So this tells me, this little 2 here, 2 there, tells me how many times I have to use my multiplier. So use multiplier twice, right? That's what that tells me. You guys clear on that? Okay, so now I just start. I'm going to write this as a fraction. 12 yards squared. Whoops, I'm not going to write it as squared, am I? I'm going to put 12 yards times yards over 1. You with me? Did you write that down? 12 yard times yard over 1. Then I'm going to put a dot for times. I'm going to draw my fraction line. Now, yards is upstairs. Where does yards have to be? From my unit multiplier downstairs. So I'm going to put 1 yard downstairs. And I'm going to put 3 feet upstairs. And I can have fun. I can cross out one of the yards. One of the yards. I still need another one, don't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it again. Same thing again. 3 feet over 1 yard. Have fun. Cross out the yard. Cross out the yard. I now no longer have yards at all. No yards squared. All I have is feet times feet, which is feet squared. So I have 12 times 3 times 3. Well, that's 12 times 9, right? 12 times 9 over 1 times 1 times 1. Okay. And then we're feet squared. So 12 times 9, who knows what that is?
12 times
108? Is that 108?
Yeah.
Okay, so my final answer is 108 feet squared. Not hard. Not hard, right? Not bad. Fist of 5. Do you get this? Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Now we're going to make it slightly harder. Okay? I mean, I could do yards cubed, right? That would be volume, right? That would be of a box. I could do yards cubed, or feet cubed. And it would just mean I'd have to use this unit multiplier how many times?
3.
3 times. I could do it to the 10th power. I have to use my unit multiplier 10 times, right? And then I would cross everything out, right? All right, so now we're going to go slightly harder again. Can I erase?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Oh, that was, I've never changed my number, did I?
No, but it was the
So what, how many have we done?
third.
This was third?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I did.
All right, so we'll now move on to number 4. All right. Let's say I gave you this problem. This is number 4, right? Okay, convert. So write this down in your notebook, number 4. Convert 220 centimeters, well, whatever, to feet. 220 centimeters to feet. Now, there's a problem here. I would have no trouble if it said convert 220 centimeters to inches. But it doesn't say that, because I know the conversion factor from inches to centimeters, but I don't know the conversion factor personally from centimeters to feet. I could figure it out, but I don't really. I'm a little lazy. I'm sort of a couch potato sometimes, right? So what would you do, Henry?
I would convert it, the centimeters to inches, then convert that to feet.
Brilliant. Did you guys get that?
Yeah.
We know how to convert it to from centimeters to inches, and then we all know how many inches are in a foot, right?
Yeah.
So we actually now have 2 conversion factors. Would you agree with me? Yeah, no, we're going to say.
So you can still do 220 centimeters to feet, but you want to do it from 220 centimeters to inches and then to feet?
Yes. So let's write our 2 conversion factors. That's fabulous. So 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. That'll get me from centimeters to inches. How do I go, what's my conversion factor to go from inches to feet?
6 inches to 1 foot.
1 foot. 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, right?
Oh wait, 12.
Right? Right? You with me? Does that make sense? We've got 2 different unit multipliers now. 2 different conversion factors. And that means this one is going to have 2 possible unit multipliers. This one's going to have 2 possible unit multipliers. Am I losing you guys? No? Okay, good. So it's really not that hard. So I'm going to rewrite this as a fraction. 220 centimeters. I'm not dealing with squares anymore, just centimeters. And I want to go to inches, right? Just like these guys said. I'm going to go to inches. So which one am I going to use? I've got to use, this says inches,
Well, it would be
but that says feet. I have to have something that has centimeters and inches.
1 inch equals 1 inch over 2.5.
Okay, so 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters. Again, the way I chose that is I have centimeters upstairs. I have to have centimeters downstairs so that they will cross out. That make sense? All right, so I'm going to do my fun part, cross out my centimeters. Yes! So now all we have left are inches. You agree with me? Mm-hmm. That's it. But I don't want inches. I want feet.
Ooh, I know what the number is
So,
for.
well,
I
okay.
know how many inches or centimeters fit into a foot.
Okay, hold on to that, and you can tell us in a minute, but I don't want to confuse everybody. If you knew that, we could have done it in one swoop, right?
Exactly.
If we knew how many centimeters was in a foot, we could have just used that conversion factor and created, just done it in one foul swoop. But since I don't, and I don't feel like figuring it out, to me, this is easier. Because, I'll just use my calculator later to figure out, to do all this calculating.
But couldn't you just multiply, like, you should multiply 2.54 by 12?
So, well, okay, so now the next question is, right now we have inches, we want it to be feet. Here's inches and feet. So we're going to use this conversion factor, which we have inches upstairs. So we have to have what downstairs? You have to have whatever, if you're going to cross out the inches upstairs, you want to have inches downstairs, right? So I've got to put the 12 inches downstairs. I'm just using this conversion factor right here now. 12 inches on the downstairs so that the inches will cross out, and 1 foot upstairs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now I have my fun part again, my inches cross out, inches cross out. And then do I have any other units besides feet? No. So all I have left is feet. So now I just simplify it. 220 times 1 times 1, that's 220. Over 2.54 times 12. 2.54 times 12. And then my answer would be in feet. So I get out my little trusty dusty, where did that come from? Handy dandy calculator. And I go 220 divided by 2.54 divided by 12. You follow me? So what did I say? 220 divided by 2.54 divided by 12 equals 7.22 feet. That makes sense?
Yes.
The conversion factor is.
So if, so what is the conversion factor, Gabe, to go from centimeters to feet?
So it's 1 centimeter over 30.48.
30.48. So you're saying,
Or no, 1 foot is.
you're saying 1 centimeter is equal to 1
No,
over
no,
30 point.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying 1 foot is equal to 30.48 centimeters.
So you did 2.54 times 12, right?
No.
That sounds, yeah, to
I
get
just
that.
went and divided
Centimeters.
the 30.
That's probably right. So
40.
12 times 2.54, yeah, 30.48 centimeters. You're right. So you could have just used this, right? Just once, and you would have been done. But I haven't memorized that. But I have memorized these, so for me it was easier to just use what I knew. You know what I mean? All right, so I'm going to pass these out. I'm going to turn this off. But are there any questions first? Does that make sense to you? It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Just have fun with it. If there's only 3 on the back where I give you 2 conversion factors, and that's when you have to choose which ones to do. There are 2 that go from square inches to square whatever, and then the rest are regular. Okay? So go ahead and start this. You don't have a lot of minutes.
Oh my god.
We have 2
Probably
minutes
have more
left.
time. Thanks, Gary. You're welcome. 2.
There's one more. Oh, she already has one. So, it's not home.
Go ahead and start out. See if you at least get started on it. So we're missing. Oh, I didn't stop.